What's up, fam? It's your boy, and you already know what time it is, man. In today's video, we're going to talk about covered calls and why it's one of my favorite option strategies to deploy each and every time when you actually want to be in very strategic plays. So we're going to break that down today. I'm going to talk to you about what cover calls are. We're going to actually show you how you can get it done over in the Webull app and break it down for you there. But then also we're going to talk about some of the pros and some of the cons that can come with actually being in a covered call position. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to actually break down for you in detail the last full cover call run I just made that I just closed out over the last 90 days. Kind of less than 90 days, but we're going to use round numbers today to actually talk about this in theory, and we're going to run right through all of this. So stay locked in. Let's get down into the video. And if you ain't did anything else, use that first link down below so you can join my Discord, so you can have availability to me for any and all trade alerts, and you can learn things like this. So let's jump down into the playbook and let's talk about it over on the desktop first when it comes over to Webull. So let's just jump into that real quick. So now we're going to talk about AMC as the example that I'm going to use today, just so that way we have some type of relationship together as we talk about one of the most popular stocks in the market today. So we're going to get into this video real quick when it comes down to cover calls. So we got to start with how does cover call process work in the option chain, and then I'm going to break it down on the whiteboard and show you a little bit more in detail. And when we get down into it, we're going to break this down so clean and so quickly and simply that we're going to get directly into the pros and cons. So here we go. So in the option chain, let's go on head over to the option chain. You see what we have on the chart. So if you see one of the main strategic reasons to use a cover call is basically, let's say you own 100 shares of AMC today. Okay, I know no one wants to sell their AMC. It's fine, I get it, but check it out. Let's just use AMC as an example. Let's say you own 100 shares of AMC and you own those 100 shares at maybe $40 a share. Okay, so let's go back and let's look at the chart, and I'm gonna show you why cover calls is something amazing that you can do over time and over a period of time to make good money with, okay, as passive income at that. So let's look at this. So if you go back over into what I have drawn up in the box, okay, so if you go out to the daily, you'll see I have a box here that's actually in my support and resistance levels. This is my key support level at 29.29, and then I have another resistance level at about 49.07, and then you see I have the top 61.10 that I look at for support levels. But let's say that you're actually the one who own AMC around this level at 49.23, and it's been in this level trading over this period of time. Well, if you look at that 49.23, that 49.23 is actually on July 8th. July 8th, it traded at 49.23. Say you bought the AMC shares that you own at this level around $49. Well, to this day, up until September 10th, you actually was holding the bag on AMC shares all the way up to then. So this is a nice period of time to actually be a long hold, 3 months or so into a play. So I want to show you why this is a key level where you want to take advantage of options, cover options to be exact, on the call side of how this happens. So let's go over to the option chain, and what we're going to do is that we're going to use whole numbers to get you through this process. So we're basically going to say today, and I'm going to go over to the whiteboard first, and then we'll come back to actually the option chain here. So let's go ahead and head over there. So you'll see basically you're at, let's say that you have $40 shares of AMC. Okay, you shareholder. Okay, so now let's say $40 shares of AMC times 100 equals $4,000. Okay, real quick. So you have $4,000 of AMC. Now you've been trading in that consolidated factor of July 8th to September 10th all the way through, and you've been holding the bag, and you kindly went down all the way to $29, and you've been bouncing back and forth in the 30s for a while, and you just sitting here like, man, you're not making any money on AMC. Well, let's say that you wanted to do a cover call, okay? Well, we know that you own 100 shares, so 100 shares in a contract for options equals one contract, okay? So let's head back over to Webull and let's talk about this a little bit more in depth. Okay, so when we head over to Webull, what you're going to see at this point in time is that we're on the 17th September option chain. Okay, and we're using calls. Okay, so we're going to go down to where we're sitting at currently with AMC. So if you bought $40 shares currently at this point, your shares is now worth $50. Now, let's say per chance that you decided that you wanted to do a cover call, and you wanted to do a cover call now at the $60 level. Okay, $60 level at this point in time, you have a 32,000 open interest rate on that. So we'll go and say let's hit the 120 on the call. Okay, so now we wanted to actually sell a call instead of buy a call. So typically when we talk about high option plays, you're either on the buy, you're always on the buy side. You're either buying a call or you're either buying a put. So in that case, you're putting up premium, which is usually looked at as a debit in layman terms, that you're putting up to actually hold control of shares, 100 shares, one contract to the person who owns it, right? That's what you're doing if you're on the buy side. Where in this case, you are the owner of the shares. So we are doing a sale at this point in time. So you are doing a sale to open, okay? So let's head back over to the whiteboard real quick. I want to make sure I write this out. So if you are the seller of shares, that equals sell to open. If you are a buyer of shares, that equals buy to open. Okay, so now if you're on either, so depending on who you are, you're going to do the opposite if you want to close the contract to preserve capital or to actually get your capital back. Okay, or how much you have left of your premium that you put up. So if you sell to open, you buy to close as your seller, or you sell to close as the buyer in these deals. Okay, so now that we got that cleared up, I just want to make sure we're all copacetic here, right? So what you would do on a call contract, you're going to hit from the buy to the sell. Okay, and let's just do one contract of AMC shares. Okay, so that's what we'll use as our example. Well, in this one contract of AMC shares that you have $119 in control of, which is now worth at this point in time, you bought them for $4,000. They're currently at $50.16, so you're about up $5,000 because you're up about $10 a share. Okay, so you're making $119 in credit. You see the difference here? This is credit. So when it comes over to it, you'll have basically seller of shares gets a credit, and the buyer of shares has a debit. Okay, that's how that plays out. So basically, you put up money here, you make money here. Okay, that's what that means. Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm breaking all this down for you in layman terms, so you don't have any questions about it. So let's keep it moving. Now the next thing is here, what you would want to do if you wanted to sell this contract, you would basically say, okay, I'll sell you my shares guaranteed at $60 strike. If it goes above that, you can have the shares, the 100 shares. You just pay me right now $119 and the difference at market value of the $60 from the market value that I own. Okay, that's what that is. So basically on this contract, we're going to write it on out. I'm going to go and write it down for you. You're going to see that the writer of the contract basically wrote, okay, $60 call at 119 with expiration of 17 September 21. Okay, now that we have that, so we got that, so that basically means that 119 times 100 is going to be $119 that I'm going to pay for the right to AMC shares at $60. Okay, that's basically what that means. Okay, so somebody's paid $119 for the right to control 100 shares of AMC all the way up to the expiration of 17 September 21. Okay, boom, there we go, we got that. Okay, so now the $119 is yours as a seller. You're automatically getting this into your account. You can do whatever you want to with it to the seller. Okay, that's what that means. So now what happens? You send the contract over 100 shares to the buyer. Now, what is the pro and what is the con of this type of deal, right? Because it sounds like the seller is making out. The seller gets the share, get the premium, which is $119 credited to them. That's their money they get to keep no matter what happened with the shares. And the buyer is just basically getting the contract where they have to wait for some action to actually happen. Now, how does that play out for both parties in this, right? Well, let's talk about the pros and cons for both, okay? We'll go directly and talk about pros first. Let's talk about it. Well, seller keeps premium, okay, and if the shares does not hit expiration at $60 or $59.99 or less, seller gets shares back. Buyer, nothing. Okay, now what happens if the seller actually sees the contract goes to 60? Let's say the contract goes to $60.01, well, or up. That equals seller sells, seller gets exercised. Let's do that first. Gets assigned, sells shares, and makes net. Okay, so what do I mean by net? Okay, so basically, right, the seller already got $119, okay, in credit. This is credit. We're bringing this credit back up again, okay? But now, remember, they bought the shares at $40, okay? Let's do that in a different color so you know that we're talking about something totally different. So they bought the AMC shares originally at $40 a share, okay? Now, let's say that the contract actually goes to $60.01. Well, the seller is now due to owe those contracts out, right? So now they owe, basically, the seller does that contracts at market value at $60. That's what they get. That's actually, they're going to get another $20 after they subtract this. They're getting another $20 per share, right? So basically, that's $2,000 that they're getting plus the 119 at 21.19. So now they made 21.19 on those same 100 shares. That's really what happens here. Now, the buyer of the contract definitely does not have to exercise their right for it. They basically just want the call option. They want to make that value back. They don't want to lose their intrinsic value, and the shares are going to be so ballooned high that they don't want to have to deal with actually buying the shares. That's not what they really got into it about. They got into it just to borrow the shares, then for the liquidity to get up to a certain value. They made their money, they send it back to the market, and now the market sends those shares back out into wherever they need to go. Okay, that's really the gist of this. That's what it comes down to. Now, so we've talked about how this walks through, and we talked about some of the pros, and we talked about some of the cons here. Now, what's the con? Let's say that you wanted to keep those shares and you actually wanted to ride it on up down to $100 a spike or whatever, or today you come in and now you see it's at 50.16 and you sold those shares for $50. Let's just say that happened too. Well, now you lose the right to those shares, and now you don't get to participate in the run up to 60. You just don't. That's what happens when you actually make those contracts. You have to understand where you're at and how much you're actually willing to give those shares up, and be willing to understand that you may possibly 89 to 90% of the chance going to get it signed on these contracts. That's just how the game goes. That's what you have to remember, and that's the risk that you take when you actually plan recover calls. Well, let's get down into some of the things that I want to actually break down as well when we get down into what's going on here. I want to reveal to you the option plays that I've been using for cover calls for the last 90 days, where I break this down for you in full detail and we walk right through it. I have this on a spreadsheet, and we're going to do that first. So let me get that up for you and actually bring that on over to you. So let's get that up on the screen as well, and we'll talk about this in full detail. So now, let's go ahead and do that, and we'll start over with the spreadsheet. Okay, so in this spreadsheet, what you're going to see is that we've actually been doing AMC cover calls since June 21st, 2021. Now, I know that it's a lot of apes in Ape Nation who's probably looking at this video right now saying, what in the hell are you talking about? You've been doing cover calls with AMC shares? How dare you? You're not part of Ape Nation. Fam, come on, man. We all have to make a living, and I'm doing this for people who need to understand the psychology of all the plays that we in. Could I have picked another stock? Possibly, but at the time of this run, you had to take advantage of the implied volatility, and that's a major part here. Implied volatility played a role in this participation in this stock for my case study to bring to you to talk about how you can actually make money on a lot of the volatility in the market. So that's what I'm here to talk about today. So let's talk about June 21st. This is the first time that I actually bought the shares of AMC. And don't worry, I'll show you this all in full participation, okay? So we're gonna break this all the way down. You'll see that all the green is gonna be, let me go down to the chart. Let me go down to the key ledger here. You'll see all the green is the sell to open, buy to close is the red, and net profit is the blue, okay? So you have the green here for June 21st, 2021, that we did a $64 cover call. Now, the one thing that I want to make sure I express is that my shares cost basis was $52.19, okay? So I was not willing to part ways with my shares of AMC unless it was $64 cover call. That's a $12 difference in share price, okay? At the time, for my cost basis. But I sold 6 contracts, that's over 600 shares, for $7.50 strike, which equated to $750 a contract for $4,500, okay? And we're gonna run right through these. I just wanna get through the first one. But then you'll see I had a small brokerage fee of $5. I paid that, so I got $44.95. And then I actually bought the close. Remember, you sell to open as the seller, and you buy the close when you want to get your shares back, okay? So I saw that the contract the next day on June 22nd was at $1.80. I was like, man, I'm up over 70% on this play. Why would I let this keep on running and potentially lose some of these gains? So I closed the contract for $1,077. So I basically gave $1,077 back on that $4,500 I was actually giving in premium, okay? For a net of $3,412. And you essentially see that I did that for the rest of the time period that I owned AMC shares. Now, what you will see that there was eventually an increase from the 6 contracts because I made so much in premium to the 12 contracts, okay? So then I went to 12 contracts, which is 1,200 shares, and I did that for a while more, and then we eventually closed it all out. So in premium, going through every single premium line that I made, 3412, 114, 142, 271, 8202, 572.40, 759.30, 345.76, and 3872.05, which you can't see unless I move it over there, okay? So you'll see that all those premiums equated to $10,823.74. Now, why do I tell you this? Because look at these premiums that I was getting, fam. I was getting on all the greens. I was getting $1,300, $4,000, $2,000, $1,200, $942, $1,896, $1,560, $1,400, and that $4,500. Insane premiums, right? And look at the reminder. Look at this chart. Let's go back over to the chart real quick. I want to talk about this again. Let's look at the chart. Let's look at, here we go. Let's get it up on the screen. So if you look at the chart, all this time, it's just bouncing in this realm. It's bouncing here. It's not even going anywhere. So this, I'm not making money because remember, I'm at 52.19. 52.19 is in this area, right? But it's bouncing down below here. I'm not making any money on the shares. I'm only making money on the premium. That's why this is important, okay? So let's look at this again. Now you see it's $10,000 in premium that actually was made, okay? So why is that important? Because we're going to talk about it. The $10,000 is what I bring in to me, the holder of the shares. No matter what, every single one of these contracts from June 21st all the way to September 9th, never lost any shares, only made more cash as I wait for AMC to recover. Now, well, what happened? I decided that it was time to close out AMC, and here's the reason why. Because I was actually holding those shares on margin. I was holding 1,200 shares on margin. Now, I would never tell anyone to do that. Play margin at your own risk. I never give you financial advice and tell you that's the right thing to do, but I understood my risk. To me, it was a win-win for me to actually buy these shares on margin, hold them on margin, and actually pay all these premiums back towards the margin. That's what I did. You see, I had $51,291.41 in margin, okay? Now, the premiums that I received all went towards paying down the margin value that I actually had. So that margin value was at $10,823.74 in premium that I received. That went towards that total margin of $40,467.67. And I actually closed out the whole value yesterday at $56,915 in AMC shares alone, okay? And that netted me a profit on covered calls for less than 90 days for $16,448.02. Now, how do we even know that that is real, right? I know that's the next question. Craig, yeah, you can tell us that all day long, but how do we know that you're actually telling us the truth about whatever you're saying there? So I wanted you to see over here, you'll see on June 18th, I bought 397 shares, right? And then on July 7th, I bought 543 shares, okay? That's how much more I bought. So let's look at all those shares together, which equates to 1,200 shares, okay? So let's just look over at here, right? You'll see that's a $543 contract, okay, for AMC shares for $49.02, okay? And then you'll see here that we have $397 of AMC shares at $62.15, okay? Now, that's all the shares. But then I sold all of them at one time for $56,915.69, right? That's it. That's the shares, okay? So why did I do it on margin? Well, for me, here's the reason why I did it on margin. Like I said, I never tell anybody else to do this, and I'm gonna bring it up on the screen, and we'll talk about this as well, is that it was actually cheaper to do it on margin to end up putting my own capital up. I was able to actually invest in other areas of the market where I wanted to take advantage of, while I waited for AMC to actually recover, and I actually was buying contracts, was selling contracts and getting premium while I was actually bringing in money, and it was really not costing me anything. Well, how did it not cost you anything? Well, theoretically, it cost me about $333 to control over $50,000 of margin that I paid down to $40,000 and then use the shares to pay everything off. Well, what do you mean by that, Craig? So look over here, right? You'll see this is on my TD Ameritrade account, and this is what the TD Ameritrade margin account and interest rates are actually at, okay? You'll see if you scroll down to the $50,000 area, it's an 8% effective rate per year, annual percentage yield rate, okay? On that alone, you gotta divide that by 12, okay? So if you divide that by 12, I was paying 0.67% a month to hold those $50,000 in cash, okay? And that basically went towards my margin account, and basically I made the money, all right? And I actually sold the shares. Now I'm up over $16,000 on AMC shares, and I've reallocated my whole portfolio to actually start a new trend. And I'm actually doing another case study that I'm going to bring to you when it's actually over and said and done with, as part of my new strategies that I'm going forward in making passive income as I'm aggressively pursuing other avenues inside the market. So I hope that I've provided you a lot of value in this content and showed you things that maybe is something that you should consider, and even some things that you might even have questions on, which you can ask me down in the comments down below, and I'm willing to be down there with you guys and conversate with you about any and everything that y'all bring up. And man, I hope you found value. So hit me with a like if you did. Definitely subscribe to the channel. And that way you can learn more strategies like this, and we could talk about more things in popularity like this as well. Now, if you have found value in this, definitely bang that notification bell so you can be notified each and every time I drop way more high content like this. Man, if you don't do anything else, please use my second link down in the description and apply for life insurance in just 5 minutes. It's simply the right thing to do for you and your family, okay? So look, I hope that y'all found value in this. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope that you find some solace in what's going on and celebrating 9/11. Do it the way that you feel best. And man, I love y'all. I want y'all to stay safe. Peace.